Mosin-Nagant M130. Sergei Mosin's bolt-action design, refined with elements licensed from Lee-Enfield No, originated during 1882-1891 and entered Russian service in 1891 as the three-line rifle M1891. A modernization program in 1930 created the M9130, which standardized sights, stock geometry, and manufacturing steps to improve interchangeability across plants. The rifle was already proven through imperial service and Civil War use, so the 1930 pattern became the Red Army's default long gun heading into the 1930s rearmament drive. The family carries multiple designations: M1991, M9130, M38, M44, Finnish M39, Chinese Type 53 among others, and Mosinka persists as a colloquial nickname. It chambers 7.6 2x54mm R and feeds from a 5-round internal magazine. The bolt uses a 90-degree lift with a recessed push-feed head, and wartime finishes ranged from nicely blued receivers to utilitarian machining as output accelerated. The standard sniper package moved from early PE and PEM optics to the compact 3.5x PU scope on selected M91 30 receivers, with aimed fire in the 500-meter band and practical observation farther with skilled users. Production scale was immense, tens of millions across Tula, Ijevsk, and Sestroriesk, plus French and American contract runs at Châtellerault, Remington, and New England Westinghouse. On the Eastern Front, it served as both standard infantry rifle and as a reliable sniper platform at Stalingrad and through the Baltic and Belarusian campaigns, associated with names like Vasily Zaitsev and Lyudmila Pavlichenko. Post-war redistribution sent rifles to allies and clients for use in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and numerous local conflicts, while China produced the Type 53 and other states refurbished stocks for decades. Karabiner 98K. The Karabiner 98K emerged in 1934 from the Mauser Gewehr 98 lineage and was adopted by Germany in June 1935 as the Short Kurds carbine. It consolidated lessons from the standard model and earlier export patterns, standardizing a 600mm barrel and turned-down bolt handle. The system's safety, strength, and controlled feed reliability made it the default rifle for a rearming Wehrmacht. Alternate names and abbreviations include KAR-98K and K-98K. The full term is Karabiner 98 Kurs. Mechanically, it is a 3-lug, controlled round feed bolt action chambered in 7.92 by 57mm Mauser, feeding from a 5-round internal magazine topped by stripper clips. Laminated stocks resisted warping, and the rifle retained good iron sight precision to about 500 meters, while optics extended practical reach. Sniper conversion used mounts for scopes such as the ZF-39 and the long eye relief ZF-41, the latter widespread but often criticized for limited field performance compared with higher magnification glass. Manufacture spread across many codes: Mauser, Irma, Gustloff, Sauer, Steyr, and Brunn among them, producing well over 14 million by 1945. Approximately 132,000 rifles were purpose-fitted or converted for scoped use, supporting designated marksmen and specialized teams from Poland and France to the Eastern Front and North Africa. After 1945, vast stocks were captured and reissued. Soviet RC refurbishments are common on the surplus market, while Israel, Yugoslavia, and others ran notable post-war programs, including M9848 conversions. M1C Garand. John C. Garand's gas-operated M1 rifle was standardized in 1936 after late 1920s development and moved some infantry from bolt actions to a semi-automatic service arm, a sniper adaptation, initially designated M1E7 and standardized as M1C in June 1944 added a receiver-mounted scope base and low-power optic to supplement the M1903A4. The follow-on M1D, developed as M1E8, simplified logistics with a barrel-mounted single-ring system that left the receiver untouched. Alternate designations matter. M1C and M1D are separate conversions, and the original M1 served unchanged as the base rifle. Chambering is 30-06 Springfield with an 8-round on-block clip, a rotating bolt, and a long-stroke gas system. Early M1C packages used the M73 2.2X scope, later refined as M81, while the M1D commonly wore M82 or M84 optics on the barrel mount. Wartime M1C production remained small, with fewer than 8,000 assembled during World War II and additional quantities built around the Korean War. The M1D was produced in greater numbers. Field experience showed that drilling and tapping receivers for the M1C mount could introduce stresses that degraded accuracy, a practical factor that drove the M1D's different mounting scheme. Scoped M1 saw limited late war service but gained traction in Korea, where the semi-automatic action offered a useful follow-up shot compared with bolt-action snipers. Lee-Enfield No. 4 WW2. The Lee-Enfield lineage traces to the 1895 adoption of the Lee-Metford Lee-Enfield system, evolving through the SMLE into the No. 4 series as Britain standardized wartime production. The No. 4 MKIT emerged from selected No. 4 rifles that met accuracy criteria and were converted with optics and furniture suitable for precision work. It retained the short throw bolt and detachable 10-round box magazine that defined the family's high practical rate of fire. Nomenclature spans SMLE, No. 4 and No. 5 jungle carbine, with the precision variant No. 4T and later the 7.62 by 51 mm L42A1 conversion in post-war service. The standard chambering is 303 British. 5-round chargers load the magazine, and period muzzle velocity sits near 400 feet per second, depending on ammunition. The numbered 4T carried the NO32 3.5x telescope on robust mounts, with cheekpiece and selected wood fitted by Holland & Holland. Trained marksmen prized the rifle's quick cycling and practical handling in European and Mediterranean theaters. Conversion numbers center around about 23,000 numbered 4 rifles built or rebuilt to T standard. Commonwealth production spanned Enfield, BSA, and London Small Arms in Britain, with Long Branch in Canada and wartime Lend-Lease rifles from Savage in the United States. The platform's post-war life proved long, with L42A1 conversions serving into the 1990s and cadet and police use lingering even longer in some places. Collectors value rifles with matching scopes and cases, while stripped or mismatched sets are more common survivors. Gewehr 43. Walther's Gewehr 43, introduced in 1943, answered the shortcomings of the earlier G41 series by adopting a simpler short-stroke gas piston influenced by the SVT-40. In April 1944, the designation shifted to Karabiner 43 as minor dimensional changes appeared, but the core mechanism remained the same. The rifle entered service as a semi-automatic infantry arm with potential for designated marksman use as optics became available. It appears under multiple marks: G43, K43, GWW43, KR43, reflecting inspection stamps and production batches, chambered in 7.92 by 57 mm. It uses flapper locking, a top cover receiver, and a detachable 10-round magazine, though 5-round stripper clips could also charge the rifle. The Zielfern Rohr 4X scope was the standard optic, giving practical precision to several hundred meters, while iron sights remained rated to 1/200 meters on paper. Wartime assembly occurred across Walther Code AC, Berlin Lübecker DUV, then QVE, and Wilhelm Gustloff BCD, with late war part quality varying as materials tightened. Planned company-level distribution sought to place several semi-automatics within each grenadier unit, but supply failed to meet ambition as bombing and logistics took their toll. Roughly 50,000 scoped rifles are estimated within a total just over 400,000, and the type saw front-line use from the Eastern Front to Western Europe. After the war, East German border troops and police, along with Czechoslovak units, issued refurbished examples, and captured stocks traveled to Indochina and other theaters. Modern shooters often install adjustable gas sleeves to moderate carrier speed with contemporary ammunition, a practical solution to preserve receivers and bolts. SVT-40. Fedor Tokarev's semi-automatic rifle project began with the SVT-38 fielded in limited numbers during the Winter War and matured into the SVT-40 for Red Army adoption in 1940. The design intended to replace the Mosin-Nagant as a standard service rifle, compressing infantry training around a lighter, faster firing platform. War losses and field maintenance challenges curtailed that ambition, but the SVT series remained an important part of 1941-1942 issue. The rifle uses a short stroke gas piston with a tilting bolt, a detachable 10-round magazine, and chambering in 7.6 2x54mm R. Typical muzzle velocities fall in the mid to 700 feet per second range depending on load, and the open receiver top allows stripper clip charging with the magazine in place. Sniper variants mounted early PE-PM optics, and later the PU 3.5x scope. Around 51,000 purpose-built snipers were produced before that program stopped in 1942. Weight-saving cuts and the gas system's sensitivity gave the rifle a reputation for speed, with a corresponding need for clean conditions and careful adjustment. Production ran at Tula, Izhevsk, and Podolsk, surging in 1941 before collapsing under evacuation and refocus on simpler carbines and submachine guns. In the field, the SVT equipped NCOs and elite formations early in Barbarossa and later ceded ground to the sturdier, easier-to-keep Mosin-in-line units. Post-war, refurbished rifles entered surplus channels. Finland released thousands through commercial importers, and captured examples influenced German thinking during G43 development. Today, the SVT remains desirable for its historical place in the transition from bolt-action to general-issue semi-automatic service rifles. M1903A4 Springfield. The U.S. rifle caliber .30 M1903 descends from a 1903 adoption that replaced the Krag-Jorgensen and integrated Mauser features after legal wrangling over patents. The A4 variant served as the principal U2S bolt-action sniper rifle of World War II, standardized through wartime simplification that also produced the A3. It capitalized on an already accurate action while the Army brought the new M1C sniper conversions online. Alternate marks span M1903, M1903A1, A3, and A4 with specialized Marine Corps builds using unertl optics under the M1941 banner. The controlled round feed action locks on two front lugs, chambers 3006, and feeds from a 5-round internal magazine. A4 rifles deleted iron sights and mounted a Weaver M73B1 2.5x scope over the receiver, which changed handling and loading compared with earlier offset mount marine rifles, barrel length at 24 inches, solid bedding, and robust steel contributed to precision that marksmen favored for reconnaissance and counter-sniper work. The M1903 family saw service across the Philippines, Mexico, World War I, and beyond. And in World War II it went to Rangers, Marines, and Army units that valued accuracy over rate of fire. Production across Springfield Armory, Rock Island, Remington, and Smith Corona totaled about 3 million rifles over the entire program, with A4 quantities a smaller subset. After 1945, Ally issue, ceremonial duty, and competition use kept the pattern active, and surplus rebuilt many actions into sporters, while original configuration A4 rifles became increasingly scarce. Type 97. The Type 97 sniper rifle was adopted in 1937 as a scoped derivative of the Type 38 tailored for Imperial Japanese Army requirements in China and the Pacific. The conversion retained the long barrel of the parent rifle to reduce muzzle flash and dust signature, an advantage for concealed firing from vegetation or elevated positions. Service continued through the war even as the 7.7mm program advanced. Nomenclature appears in Japanese as Type 97 sniper rifle. Chambering is 6.550mm Arisaka with a 5-round internal magazine and a straight-line bolt. The scope is a factory-matched 2.5x optic with fixed zero, serialized to the rifle and offset to the left to preserve stripper clip loading. Muzzle velocity sits near 730 meters per second, and the soft recoiling cartridge suited rapid recovery without betraying position. Production between 1938 and 1943 is typically estimated a little above 22,000, split between Nagoya and Kokura arsenals, with late war examples showing the simplifications seen across Japanese small arms. In service, Japanese snipers exploited treetop hides and dense foliage, taking advantage of reduced flash and minimal dust signature, though penetration lagged larger calibers at longer distances. Captured examples entered U.S. collections during island campaigns and have become well documented in museums and private holdings. Quality differences between the two arsenals interest collectors, with Kokura's finish details often rated higher on early runs. Type 99. The Type 99 program, initiated around 1939-1940, introduced a 7.7 by 58mm Arisaka chambering intended to replace the 6.5mm Type 38 across the Imperial Japanese Army. The basic short rifle became the principal production model, while a sniper configuration added telescopic sights to selected builds. The stronger cartridge improved downrange performance, addressing ballistic limitations of the earlier round. Names include Type 99 short rifle, long rifle, Paratroop Type 2 takedown, and the scoped sniper variant. The action is a Mauser-influenced bolt with a 5-round internal magazine. Short rifle barrels approximate 657mm, and typical muzzle velocity sits in the mid-2,400 feet per second range, depending on load. The series introduced chrome-lined bores on mass-production infantry rifles, a notable corrosion resistance feature for tropical conditions. Many rifles carried fold-out anti-aircraft wings on the rear sight and early mounts for a wired monopod. Production ran to roughly 3.5 million rifles across 7 Japanese arsenals, plus facilities in Manchukuo, Mukden, and Korea, Jinsen. Late war last-ditch rifles display simplified hardware and rough finishing, yet retained a fundamentally strong action. After 1945, captured stocks were converted to calibers, such as 7.92 by 57 and 30.06 in various programs, and later, civilian conversions to 7.62 by 39 appeared. Surviving rifles with intact imperial crests and early features draw more collector attention than late expedient builds, and museum displays illustrate the progression from early, well-finished rifles to simplified end-war types. Carcano. Italy's Fucile Modello 1891 entered service in the early 1890s and formed a wide family of rifles and carbines through the Second World War. The design combined a split bridge receiver with a Mannlicher-style on-block system, creating a compact, straightforward handling rifle that met mass mobilization needs. Scoped versions date to First World War practice and continued as selected rifles and carbines in the 1930s and 1940s. The series goes by Carcano, Mannlicher Carcano, and Mod 91 with later Mod 38 and Mod 41 updates, and the Japanese Type WW2 derivative built for naval contracts. Most are chambered in 6.5 by 52 mm Carcano, feeding from a 6-round clip that falls free after the last shot. Barrels often used progressive or gain twist rifling in early production. Scope fits varied, including APX and other 4X patterns mounted to hand-selected rifles. Iron sights were graduated to long distances by period convention, though practical use centered far closer. Production ran across state arsenals at Terni, Brescia, Turin, Torre Annunziata, and Rome, with Beretta and Armaguerra among private contributors. During the Second World War, Carcanos armed Italian infantry and Alpini. And after the 1943 armistice, large numbers passed to German control for issue to second-line units and the Volkssturm. Post-war export, sporterization, and caliber conversions spread the rifles across continents, and the notoriety of a Mosin-Nagant used in the Kennedy assassination fixed the name in public memory. Collectors look for clean, original configuration long rifles and authentic scoped examples, both less common than rebuilt or altered pieces. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with fellow firearm enthusiasts, leave a like, and consider subscribing for more content like this. Your support helps keep these deep dives into firearms history going. Thanks for watching.